On this episode of Tool Tips in the Journey to the Baja 1000, we're talking all about that tool that you've been dreaming about for a long time, but maybe didn't realize you can afford. This is all about the Langmuir Systems Crossfire Pro Plasma Cutting Table. Welcome back, folks. On this episode of Tool Tips, we're going to take a quick pause from the fabrication of the steering system so that we can talk about the Langmuir System Crossfire Pro CNC Plasma Cutter. I'm going to talk about my experiences putting it together and how easy that was, how well it works, some of my experiences with the company and customer support, and then finally, how much does it cost to get it into your garage and cutting parts for yourself. Let's go ahead and take a look. Okay, I just want to take a walk around and show you what the parts are before we start putting this plasma table together. First off, we got just some of the bracketry that's going to make the table more rigid once we get that together. Really love the gantry rollers here. The red anodized aluminum is just such a cool touch that they did. Here's the Z-axis. We're using the torch height control with that. Also, all of the fasteners came in individual bags. I think there was like 30 some bags with fasteners. And as you go through the instructions, it tells you exactly which bag to go to and which ones to use. You can't mess this up. It's just a really great system that they've got. I'll show you as I put the legs together. I'm gonna make this table where I can roll it around my shop. So I'll be using these casters. I'll show you those. I'll also link those at the bottom of my YouTube page. The controller here, I got the Z-axis or the torch height control board I got to put in there. I'll be making a video on how to do that because I'm not really sure how to do it, but as I do it, I'll make a video and give any suggestions as we go through that. A couple servos there for the X and the Y axis. Going over here to my worktop, just some of the wiring, servo brackets there. Again, that red anodized aluminum just looks super cool. And back here, we got all the metal for the table. We got the metal for the slats, the legs, the frame of the build, and the gantry. All of it really simple, well packed, no damages showed up. I'm always impressed by a simple design. An engineer can always make a design more complicated, but a good engineer can make a complicated problem into a really simple design. They did that here. I can't wait to start putting it together. So putting this table together was a blast. It was like having an adult-sized erector set. It was really well laid out. I was also able to construct the whole table by myself. Sure, there are times I could use extra hands to move some stuff, but I'm a one-man shop, so just the ability to put the whole thing together all by myself was a big deal. It's not that big a machine. It'll take, I think, 48 inches wide, 33 inches long. So overall, it's, almost about 5 foot by 5 foot table that goes in your shop. It fits a lot better, I think, than a lot of the bigger machines out there. The cutting area, again, 33 by 48 inches is not huge. You can take your standard sheet of plate steel though, and you could work it through if you needed to, 48 inches wide by 8 or something like that. You could keep sliding it through the machine and continue to cut. I generally will cut my pieces down into smaller pieces of metal that I can manage and I can put on the machine, take them off to do the cutting. If you do need a machine, something that cuts bigger pieces, your options are just go get something else, like a different tool, a plasma table like a shop saver or something like that. I have heard there are guys who are planning on extending the length of the X-axis, which would be a complete modification of the table and lead screws. Not something I'm planning on doing, but I have heard guys talking about doing that, and I think that it would be possible just based on how it works and how I've seen it while I've been using it. So I just want to talk briefly about the quality of the production of this product. I think this is their second one. The first one, they may have had more, but the first one I think was the Crossfire. This is the Crossfire Pro. And it just went together well. They're mass producing these things. Every hole lined up perfectly. The bearings went on perfectly. Everything fit exactly like it was supposed to. You can really tell they've got their design dialed in and the production dialed in also. And the first time I slid that gantry, it was tight. It's smooth. It just moves smoothly. Really is a quality product. I'm really pleased that I purchased it. As I was tightening the bearings on the gantry, one thing I noticed, and again another thing I really liked about the design, is they didn't go out and find like really complex components to use in this. We're talking basic bearings. I want to say they look to me like the same bearings that you might find in rollerblades, which you can buy online, a pack of 10 for $2 if in case you had a bearing go bad or something like that. I just liked that the parts that they were using weren't something that if I had to replace them is going to cost a lot of money. It's actually pretty easy to source and replace those parts. So again, really liking the design. It was really nice that this table came with a water table, because you'll find that a lot of them don't. And having used one, a water table is an absolute must. It keeps the dust down, sound down, keeps everything down, sparks, eliminates them and everything. Must have water table with a plasma table. The water table is made out of stainless steel. Now the slats are mild steel, so the table doesn't corrode, or it does a little bit, but the slats will just get rusty. And I kind of chuckle here. I'm pulling out my vacuum and vacuuming up some metal shavings. And let me tell you, this thing becomes an absolute mess once you start using it. I'll show you how to clean it up later on in another video, but the table, don't worry about keeping it clean. Your first couple times using the plasma table is going to become an absolute mess. So here I'm adjusting the bearings, and I'll just say that their instructions on how to adjust the bearings and set the bed up and everything is perfect, and they do a really good job on that. Maybe I'll just take a quick brief second, since you saw me spinning the table around, to talk about the wheels I put on there. I like having wheels on everything in my shop such that I can move it around and clean my shop and keep my floor clean. That being said, the wheels that I have on here and those inserts I probably wouldn't use again. The table as it is right now weighs maybe about 100 pounds, but you can imagine once you put about 100 pounds of water inside the table, and then you put maybe 100 or 200 pounds of steel on top of the table, all of a sudden there's a lot of weight on this table, and they did start to flex. If I was to do it over again, I might actually weld a plate to the bottom of each of those legs where I could bolt a bigger caster on. As you can see, the engine mount behind with the water table where I have the engine on, just some Harbor Freight wheels, those would probably work a lot better. Just something a lot more hefty to take the heavy weight that will go on once this table is actually in use. Well, this was the only place I really wish I had an extra set of hands to help me. It was putting in the leg braces. It was just because the finish that they had, the powder coat that was on the legs and also on these braces, made the two surfaces slip against each other, so they're really hard to hold in place. Even clamps were kind of sliding all over the place. So having an extra set of hands to hold these in place while you drill the self-tapping screws in probably would have helped out in this case. So here was the only part of the build I was really worried about. You have to open up the control box, and you have to open it up to mount it anyway, but they want you to go in there and put a chip in. And let me tell you, you got the wrong guy for working on computers. I work on cars, I don't work on computers, and this is not something I wanted to do. But their instructions were really good and well written out. I wish they could have provided a picture, but here I am providing just at least a video so you can see how I did it. But just like in their instructions, they say line these two pins up, and they do show pictures of those, and then just press firmly with your thumbs, and the thing, it slid right in there. It ended up being a total no-brainer. You have to open this control box up anyway just to mount it on the side of the plasma table. But once you get in there, this would not be the reason why I would not purchase this table or something like that. It ended up being a no-brainer, and the part works perfectly. The Z height control, the torch height control with that chip controls, it ends up working great. Once you get that chip in there, you plug it into your USB. It just pulls power off the USB. You get a couple lights that turn on. That verifies you got the chip in there correctly. As easy as that. It was really a no-brainer. Okay, as I finish getting this thing together, let me hit you with a few final thoughts. First off is cost. The cost to get this entire plasma table into my shop was $4,258.67. That includes the table, the water bed, the torch eye control, the plasma cutter, the shipping, in my shop for that price. And some of you might be saying, wow, that's actually a lot of money. But the others of you, I could buy 4 of these for the same price it would cost for me to buy the other one. Even some plasma cutters don't come in at that price. This is a great deal for this table, and the capability is you can't match it, at least from what I found anywhere else. The capability and also the usability with their software on this machine really is the best price you can find. The next thing to consider is once you get the thing into your shop, where is the customer service? And this is a new era, I think, and Langmuir Systems, as far as I can tell, has been the best as far as embracing this new era of social media. Go to their forum and check it out on their website and just look at the responses from the company to customer problems. A customer might have a problem with a torch height control. They immediately tackle the problem in the forum, in open, public space, so people can see that they're working on the problem. And then they push out software updates to fix this thing, and they rapidly fix problems. That is one of the most impressive things to me, and why I will be a returning customer for Langmuir Systems. I do like to personally test customer service just to make sure the company I'm trying to boast is as good as I say they are. And here was my personal experience. When I was in the final part of putting this thing together, I realized I was missing one of the cables that goes from the plasma CNC cutter to the control box. It was the torch height control cable. I looked everywhere and it just wasn't in the box it was supposed to be. And so I emailed them, and literally 5 minutes later they said part is in the mail. And to me, was such a big investment, knowing that they trust their customer and are just like, hey, we're going to send to you. We realize we may have made a mistake. That is awesome, and I can't be more pleased with the way they've treated me as a customer. I would have to say getting this thing moving for the first time under its own power was the same feeling I had every time I started a new engine. It was just so cool that it's actually working, and it works really well. There was one hiccup that I had when I was getting this thing going, where the Y-axis was tight and it was kind of jamming up. So I ran their program, the break-in program, just runs it back and forth a couple times and just lubricated the lead screw, and it worked fine. So here it is, the first cut. I really cannot think of anything else that I own that is as complex as this table that just works right the first time out of the box. For people who are experienced with CNC plasma tables, you can tell that it is not piercing all the way through, and sometimes the sparks will fly off, and it's just because I have the speed set too high. So there is a learning curve to this thing as far as setting the speed. So right here I'm cutting 1/4 inch plate, and I want to say I'm trying to cut it at like maybe 40 or 50 inches per minute. As I go back into it later on, I end up cutting at 25 inches per minute, and I do my lead in and lead outs at 15 inches per minute, so I slow those down. I get a much better result out of those. But wow, it works the first time straight out of the box. So impressed, and really glad I have this plasma table. Okay, so you've decided that you want a plasma table, and you're like, okay, just tell me what I should get. So just like I did with the 3D printer, I'm just going to say, this is what I would do. So this is all my opinion. When you go to the Langmuir Systems, you will find that with this table, there are a bunch of different plasma cutter options that you can use. You can use all these different options. But when you go to their forum, what I find is that they're having, a lot of times people are having problems, the most problems, because they're using some crazy cheap, plasma cutter. Some people are having no problems at all with the Harbor Freight plasma cutter, but there are a lot of guys who are just having different problems with different signals and all that kind of stuff, and interference they're getting. And so here's my opinion, is I would go with what Langmuir Systems intended to go with this table. It might cost you a couple more bucks, but this is what I bought. I went with their basic Crossfire Pro purchase. I didn't get the laptop stand, but I did get the torch height control, $400. Check out any other source on how much a torch height control costs, and you can't touch that price. And then also I got the Razor Weld 45 CNC. Do not try to go onto Amazon and get one of those, because you won't get the ports that give you the torch height control and the torch firing. That just makes this plasma cutter plug and play, literally 2 cables, boom boom, and you are cutting with the plasma cutter on this table. I don't think you can find a better combination package that just was designed to work together. So if you want my advice, go with what they have here. Again, just over $4,000 delivered to your garage, and you're putting it together and you're cutting stuff. Well, hopefully this provides you good information about the quality and the value of this CNC plasma table from Langmuir Systems. If you think that one of these would look good in your garage, I'll provide a link in the description below. One last point I want to hit again. If you are in the market for one of these, then you know how much they cost. And if you think about the fact that for the price of a shop saver or maybe a Torchmate, you could probably have 4 of these in your shop working. Now, I really don't see a big difference in cut quality or durability of the machine. The main difference comes in the size. If you're looking to cut something 4x8 or say 5x10, you probably need a bigger machine. But if you're like me and you're cutting mostly just small parts, then this is going to be perfect for your shop, and it just fits in a smaller shop. On the next episode of Tool Tips, we're going to do a part 2 of the plasma table. We're going to talk about the air supply to it, power supply, this cabinet I got going on over here, how I clean it, which is also an important part, and I got a simple way to do that at a really good price. Thanks again for joining us on this episode. Please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons below. We'll see you in the next episode. Take care of yourself.